Isn't it true that people didn't want to work with you because you're an asshole? It's like,
isn't that true for everyone? I mean, it's like, yeah, that was like, you're a lazy asshole. It's like, so that's why you don't get work in comics, is because you're a lazy asshole, huh?
How the fuck can someone call you lazy? You get more shit done than anybody I fucking know. And I'm not just saying that because I'm here. I'm like,
the whole thing is like, you could say that like maybe in 2009, you know, after Flash Rebirth, I did become lazy and I had a bad attitude. I was mad that, you know, I co-created Blackest Night and got to draw none of it. I felt swindled by that. And I just went, I'm going to retire. And I kind of casually co-wrote Firestorm, which was a disaster and really wasn't back on my toes again. I let my career just fall apart, you know. But then, you know, when I got divorced and was dating Andrea said, what are you doing? Like, pick yourself up. You got to work for DC. You got to make yourself valuable to these people. And I went, yeah, you're right. And I became the hardest worker. I worked harder at DC from 2014 to 2018 than I've ever worked in my career before or since, because I would just say to them, what do you got? You have anything for me to do? I finished the 10 pages you sent. Do you have anything that you need? Can I help anyone? Yeah, Lobo is late. We need somebody to wrap up 4 pages of the last issue of Lobo over the weekend. I'll do it. I was Mr. Helpful because I wanted to get my career back in line so I could have a baby with Andrea. You know, I was there working really hard. I did 8 issues a year on Hal Jordan and the Green Lantern Corps. I helped put DC Rebirth together with Jeff Johns in some small way and was working really hard. And I kept I didn't cause trouble. So the idea that at that point I should be looked at as though I were a liability or, you know, was not earning my keep is outrageous. I don't talk about myself very often and, you know, what I did at DC, but for somebody to say that you don't deserve your job there, I deserve my job at DC more than anyone over there, aside from like Scott Snyder and Greg Capullo. I've made so much money for that company with my ideas and my hard work. Flash Rebirth still a gigantic seller. You know, Green Lantern Rebirth. I've created more classic books that are on their, you know, top 20 unmissable graphic novels than any other artist. Bleeding Cool had to actually write an article about that one time where they went, so here's DC's top 20 unforgettable graphic novels. Ethan Van Sciver has 3. On there, 3 out of the 25 or whatever it was, more than any other artist. Haha, isn't that funny? You know, it's like, no, I worked really hard and I did great stuff over there. So I got to stand up for myself about that. But when it comes to, aren't you sad or do you feel, I'm not. It was stressful. It was a really stressful time. You know, it's like, Cecil, you know, Ava, you've met my daughter. She was 2 years old. And I just remember saying to DC, I remember saying, you guys, I have Ava. First of all, it's one thing to like that you guys are going to throw me to this pack of wolves like Disney did Gina Carano. They're going to celebrate that I'm no longer at DC. But it's another thing that you guys know my family and you know that this is not a good time. And I've been working really hard here. And it didn't matter. And as it turns out, it didn't matter because DC just had bigger problems. It's like DC had bigger problems. The Justice League movie bombed. They were trying to get sold to AT&T and look like they were valuable. They were doing everything that they could to make their comics sell, including doubling down, making books that were monthly into bi-weekly books to get their numbers up, their sales numbers to look good to AT&T. They just didn't want to fuck around with what was going on with me.
They were like, we need a hit. Get me Sam Humphries.
Yes. I completely understand now. And Dan DiDio, again, I'll never forget my last conversation with him where he was like, this was like February. He's like, come back in June. Things will be different in June. And I didn't know what he meant. You know, by the time May came around, I was fully like committed to Cyberfrog. There was no way I was going to go back to DC. I even told Dan, I said, I'm never going to say a bad word about this company. But that was then. And then they fired everybody. They fired everybody that I knew and became social justice warriors themselves. That entire company is ridiculous now. So I feel like I don't need to keep that promise. It's not the same company. And now I'm going to take the piss out of them every chance I got for destroying these legacy characters that so many of us work so hard to preserve. People like Jeff Johns, who is now also...
Imagine being given Batman and you can't get in the top 20 graphic novels with Batman. You can't get into the top 20
yes.
fucking with Batman.
I can't even, they're calling Jeff a Nazi. I am not a racist. I'm sorry. You know, it's like, I can't I just can't. I gotta talk about that. And, of course, it's not like it's great for Jeff that I'm the only one who's standing up for him, because then they go, see, Nazis stick together. But it's like, it just feels like, what am I going to do? I gotta just tell the truth. And that's just the way it is. I gotta just tell the truth, and they can say whatever they want. I am not going to be shamed out of standing up for somebody like Jeff. I'm just not. And Jeff isn't perfect. I've had problems with Jeff. Jeff took credit for a lot of things, that probably would have helped me if I'd been given my share of credit. That was a complaint I had about Jeff.
So what you're saying is he's the Bob Kane of DC Comics.
No, that's not what I'm saying at all. Well,
that's a controversial thing you just said.
No, it's true. It's just the way writers are. Artists don't get credit for ideas like that. Writers take the credit, and that is, me and Shane get fucked over. That's just the way it is. But
Shane, is there a pier where you're at?
Yes, but I'm not jumping off it.
Why don't you go take a walk?
Yeah. Some cement shoes. Is that how it ends? Cement shoes?
What kind of thing is that to say to Shane?
I don't know.
Yeah, I was talking to one of the most famous writers in the world, a writer who created his own enormous independent platform and then sold it to Netflix for tens of millions of dollars. And I'm not going to speak his name.
Stephen King.
Right. And he's
Rodney King.
And he said to me, you must wake up every day so grateful that you were canceled. I'm like, yes, I do. Yes, I do. Thank God. He's like, can you imagine if you were at DC drawing Green Arrow right now? And I just felt like this wave of nausea and depression. And he said, exactly. Imagine that. Like, you're going to do Green Arrow with Kelly Sue DeConnick. I'm like, okay, let me learn how to draw bows and arrows. I think it really is depressing. That really does make me feel sad inside. Instead, yeah, I feel pretty good renting another warehouse and drawing frog comics. Most of the time I realize how lucky I am. It's like most of the time I kind of go, thank God all this happened to me.